It's your boy Hennythemoor over here at HTM Sports, and I was just tapping in with y'all today. So, if y'all have not seen, the Dallas Cowboys have fired a pair of coaches. The Cowboys did not retain linebackers coach George Edwards, and they also fired running backs coach Skip Pete. So they both were on expiring contracts. They are not going to be retained by the Dallas Cowboys. And we're going to get into that. We're going to see if that's the right move they should have made. We're going to discuss some of the moves they probably should have made, considering the performances of these different position groups. So we're going to just dive right into that. So, do I agree, Jazzy Jeff? What's up with you, man? I appreciate you for tapping in. I appreciate you. So, I do not agree with the Cowboys firing these two coaches. I understand they were on expiring contracts, but I don't think they did anything to get fired. There are coaches on this staff that should have been fired, that should not have been retained. But these two are not the guys that should have been fired. So you fired your linebackers coach and you fired a running backs coach. So why would you fire a running backs coach when that running backs coach got Tony Pollard to be a 1,000-yard receiver? Hey, Gary Murphy, what's up with you, man? I appreciate you tapping in. Why would they fire a running backs coach that helped produce a 1,000-yard rusher? And Zeke, I know he's been in decline, but he did miss games. Ezekiel Elliott still had 12 rushing touchdowns. He still rushed for over 800 yards. So, he got almost 2,000 yards rushing out of his two running backs. He got a Pro Bowl selection for one of his running backs. One of his running backs had a career year. So, just looking at it like that, why would you fire your running backs coach? He got the most out of that position that he could have possibly did. Right? You didn't see a real drop off in the running backs. And then when you look over at the linebacking coach, we didn't have great linebacker play, but we did not have great linebackers. Right? You think about the guys that contributed this year. Anthony Barr is an older player. He been slowing down for the past couple of years. He had flashes, but you weren't you can't really put that on the linebackers coach. Leighton Vander Esch, he's a guy who had a resurgent year, right? Leighton Vander Esch played some of his best football since his rookie season this year. He really was the best linebacker on your team. And when you really think about it, we didn't play a bunch of true linebackers a lot in our defensive sets. We like to run the big nickel. That's why you saw J-Run Curse on the field a bunch of times. That's why you saw guys like Donovan Wilson having the stats he did. They were playing in the box. They were playing a lot of linebackers. They like using a bunch of safeties in place of linebackers. So you really can't say the linebacking coach didn't do his job. Leighton Vander Esch looked good. Damone Clark looked pretty good, when he was out there. So you can't really just say that he didn't do his job as a coach in developing these players when you weren't really using any of these guys like that. So those are not the guys that the Dallas Cowboys should have fired. When you look at a guy like Philbin, who's been the offensive line coach for several seasons at this point, and the line has regressed to a point where they are towards the bottom in pass protection, where we have guys that are not developing at the rate that you would want them to develop. So Philbin, that's probably a guy that I would have fired. The offensive line has a lot of talent. We invested in Tyler Smith in the first round. We brought in veterans like Jason Peters. So you can't. So things like that where there's talent present and you aren't getting the most out of the talent. Those are the coaches you fire. When you look at the offensive line as a whole, they didn't play well. No, at several stretches. They didn't play well at all. So Philbin, these last couple of years, us being a bottom pass protection offensive line, you could put that on him. I know that there's been injuries, this and that. That's part of being a coach. As a good offensive line coach, you're supposed to put together the best Hey, Johnny Herrera, what's good with you, man? I appreciate you for tapping in. Bruce, yes, they do make a bunch of bonehead decisions. I didn't agree with these firings at all. There were other guys whose head should have been on the chopping block, and it's not these two guys. So if you're late coming into the stream, the Dallas Cowboys fired their running back coach and they fired their linebacker coach, and I want to know why. Like your running backs coach, he did produce 1,000-yard rusher. He did produce one of the better rushing offenses in football. If you consider, that he works with the running backs, you got good production from your running backs. There was not a drop off. If anything, there was an elevation in the play of Tony Pollard. So he did his job. You look at the linebacker coach. He got LVE playing good again. LVE had another resurgent season. And then when you factor in the fact that Damone Clark, with no off-season work, because remember he had back surgery in the offseason. He didn't have the opportunity to go through OTAs or training camp or anything. He was rehabbing. And when you see how well he was playing and the flashes he had, you can't say that the linebacker coach was not out here developing these young linebackers. So, but if you turn your attention to guys like Philbin, when you look at the numbers on the offensive line, like they have regressed, and they have regressed in the years since he's been here. So like we were like the 31st graded pass protecting line of football this year. Then the year before that, we were bottom in that same category. We were like 23rd or 28th. I forget the exact number. I like being precise, but I'll pull it up in a little second. So we weren't good at pass blocking the last couple of years. So especially with the style of offense that we run, with as much as Kellen Moore likes to pass the ball, that is an area that the offensive line has to excel at. And he has not put them in position to be successful. May it be his scheme, it might be the way that he's teaching, these methods, these stances. I don't know. I have no idea. But point is, the offensive line has not developed. The offensive line has regressed. So like Philbin, if anything, should have been a position coach, that should have fell to the wayside. But I don't see the reason why they did that. So now that we covered that, let's get into some moves that we should make going forward. Like, even if Kellen Moore does not get a job, Kellen Moore does not need to be the offensive coordinator going forward. And I'm going to just give you a couple of reasons why. Yeah, I appreciate it, guys. Hit the like button, hit the share button, hit the subscribe button. I appreciate all the love and support. But yes, so Kellen Moore, when you look at what he done for the offense, he has good gaudy numbers. But when you look at how Dak Prescott has played since his arrival, you will see that all the numbers are inflated by the amount of time that Dak Prescott has been asked to throw the ball. In the 3 years without Kellen Moore as the offensive coordinator, Dak Prescott was 32-16 as a starting quarterback. He had no losing season. His worst season record was 9-7. He rushed for 18 rushing touchdowns in those 3 years alone, rushed for over 900 yards, and he passed for 67 touchdowns. So Dak Prescott, and he did not have a bunch of turnovers. He had one season with double-digit interceptions in that time. Now that you turn around, you look, Dak Prescott, in the three times that Dak Prescott has been healthy playing the Kellen Moore system, he's thrown double-digit interceptions. His turnovers across the board are up. He's made no Pro Bowl selections in the time that he's been with Kellen Moore. He made 2 in the 3 seasons without him. He was a rookie of the year in the season without him. He won a playoff game without Kellen Moore. But Kellen Moore has not really helped Dak Prescott. Dak Prescott is coming off of maybe his worst season as a professional athlete. If you just look at the raw numbers. Like, these the fewest touchdowns he's thrown. And I get he was hurt, right? He was injured. But these are the fewest touchdowns that he's thrown since like 2018. These are the most interceptions he's ever thrown. These are the most turnovers he had in a single season, if you count in the fumbles. And that comes down to Kellen Moore, and that also comes down to the quarterback coach. because you can't say that it's all Dak Prescott when you've seen Dak Prescott in another system, and Dak Prescott looked better than what he did right now in this man's system, right? So yes, I'm not absolving Dak Prescott of the way that he played in the playoff game. However, I have seen a better version of Dak Prescott, and it was without Kellen Moore. So what I would do, because let's be honest, even if you wanted to get rid of Dak Prescott, it is impossible to move that contract. It is an $89 million dead cap hit if Dak Prescott is cut. He has a no trade clause. So unless Dak Prescott wants to be done with the Dallas Cowboys, he cannot be moved anywhere. So you have Dak Prescott at least the next 2 seasons. Do you think we need an OC with a running mindset? Puncho, what's good with you, Puncho? I appreciate you. Well, this is the thing. I think we need a good play caller. I think we need a good play caller that calls to the strengths of the quarterback that you have. Right? Because, we were talking on the show earlier, me and Wes, we did a show earlier. We were talking about why Lamar Jackson wouldn't fit in Dallas, right? With Kellen Moore as the offensive coordinator. Well, it's some of the same reasons why Dak Prescott has been having issues. Because Dak Prescott did not get drafted as a pure pocket passer. Like, if you watch what Dak Prescott did in college, he was a mobile quarterback. He could throw on the run. He was a big, strong body that can get extra yards after contact. And, he could still extend plays and make plays downfield in the scramble drill. And even when you look at Dak Prescott production, his first 3 years in the league, he was completing a high percent of his passes. He wasn't throwing a bunch of interceptions. He was running in the red zone to get touchdowns. Like, Dak Prescott, was a true mobile quarterback, was a true dual threat. He did not become this gunslinger 37 pass attempt guy until Kellen Moore became the offensive coordinator. And look, I get it. As you develop as a quarterback, you need to, like, offensive coordinators want to trust you with more on your plate. Offensive coordinators want to trust you with doing more. But that's an entirely different thing than what Kellen Moore is doing. Kellen Moore is not playing to Dak Prescott's strengths. Dak Prescott doesn't need to play an offense that is relying on so many option routes. Dak Prescott needs to be involved in the run game. He needs to be used in heavy play action. He needs to be able to throw the ball, past the sticks. You need to overtly target, have him target his best receiver. Now, up until this season, that wasn't really what Kellen Moore was doing, with the targets. That's why Amari Cooper spoke out about not getting targets. You know what I mean? So you really need a play caller that is going to cater to what Dak Prescott does well. Dak Prescott is really good at throwing the ball on the move. Dak Prescott is one of the best quarterbacks statistically off of play action. Dak Prescott is a 240-pound man that is hard to tackle. So Dak Prescott is great at running in the red zone. He's great at running in short yardage situation to get first downs. He's great throwing the ball off of play action. And generally, when he doesn't have to throw the ball 40 times, 37 times, he doesn't turn the ball over that much. So, like, Dak Prescott is a very good quarterback, but, we still have to cater to what he does well, right? So, like, let's say that we had Cam Newton as our starting quarterback. Would we call up the plays that we're calling for Cam Newton? The answer is no. And I'm not saying that Dak Prescott is the same kind of athlete as Cam Newton, but he is the same kind of player. He's a guy that extends plays. He's a guy that can run for first downs. And you know what? I know a lot of people talk about Dak Prescott's accuracy, but Dak Prescott is actually top 10 all time in completion percentage in NFL history. Right? So he's a guy that's going to generally hit his target most of the time. So Dak Prescott has his strengths, but Kellen Moore has not been playing into those. Like, if you ask Dak Prescott to drop back and throw the ball 37 to 40 times, you're not getting the full potential from Dak Prescott. The only one that should be getting OPR is the tight end, like Witten. Yeah, I agree. Like, you generally, when you run an option route, You want to run the option route with either your best receiver, your slot, or your tight end, right? You want to run the ball. You want to run option routes with a guy that the quarterback has the best rapport with, or the guy that's going to be right in the middle of the field. But what Kellen Moore does is he's running option routes with every single person on the team. Like this, like in a typical offense, like not all these guys are running option routes. You look at guys like Noah Brown. Noah Brown has no business running an option route when he's barely played. He's barely played receiver in the NFL. He's been a special teams guy most of his career. He got some snaps last year, and then he had a huge, role earlier in this season. Like that is that is straight up malpractice to have a 7th round pick career special team receiver running option routes, right? Because he has not played enough football to know exactly where the hell he needs to be most of the time. Michael Gallup, I don't think option routes suit him either. Not because he doesn't have a rapport with Dak Prescott, but that's not really his strength. Michael Gallup is a guy you want to throw a slant to. Michael Gallup is a guy you want to throw a jump ball to. So, like, there are some things that I've seen schematically from Kellen Moore that need to be cleaned up. But altogether, I think that they just need to replace Kellen Moore. Because you also got to think about it from this standpoint. Kellen Moore has only been productive with Dak Prescott in his starting lineup, right? Because we won games with Cooper Rush, but we had a 26th ranked offense in that time. We had a bad passing offense. He wasn't scoring many points, and the defense was forced to play out of their minds, right? Then we seen Kellen Moore with different guys. We seen Kellen Moore with Andy Dalton. It did not work. We seen Kellen Moore with Garrett Gilbert, the guy that used to play Arena League football. It did not work. We seen him with Ben DiNucci. It did not work. And all those guys in their first starts had to throw the ball 38 plus times in their first start. Like, Kellen Moore loves these high volume passing attack. And that is just not something that Dak Prescott or many other quarterbacks can live with and get away with. Hey, T Smooth TV, man, I appreciate you for tapping in with me, kinfolk. So there was a year, the year that Dak Prescott got hurt, where Dak Prescott averaged 44.4 passing attempts a game. If he had not gotten hurt, it was a good chance he could have averaged 50 passing attempts a game by the time that the season was over. Dak Prescott was on track to throw for 6,000 yards the season that he got hurt, and we were barely winning games. So that is the flaw in Kellen Moore's offense. Yo, Lucky Johnson, what's good with you, kinfolk? I appreciate you for tapping in with me. So that is the flaw with Kellen Moore's offense. Like, the numbers in themselves are going to look amazing, right? Like, these guys are going to throw a ton of yards. They're going to throw for a bunch of touchdowns, right? Because you're throwing the ball down there 40 times a game. He's averaging like 37. Dak Prescott in this system is averaging 37, pass attempts. No, 38. He's averaging 38 pass attempts a game in this system under Kellen Moore, right? If you go back and look at the attempts, that's what it averaged out to a game. So he's throwing the ball a ton. But when everybody loved Dak Prescott, when he came on the scene, he was throwing the ball 28 times a game. He was throwing the ball 30 times a game, maybe 31 times a game. Like, now, there are times when Dak Prescott is throwing over 40 times. He got close to 50 pass attempts, at different points. So I'm not saying that Dak Prescott is not a good quarterback, but that is a lot to ask of any quarterback. I want y'all to understand something. Like, people be talking about gunslingers, how these guys put the team on their back and win all these games, throwing the ball all around the yard. That is not even true, right? Because Aaron Rodgers is 15, 29, and 1 as a starting quarterback when the Packers have asked him to throw the ball over 40 times. It's not a good recipe to win games. Drew Brees only won 40% of the games, but he had to throw 40 times. If I'm not mistaken, I think only Tom Brady and Patrick Mahomes have a 60% win percentage when throwing the ball 40 times or more. So like it's not conducive to winning. Like throwing the ball that much is not conducive to winning, especially with the skill position players that you have. When you look at who we ran out there with, Dennis Houston was a starting receiver week 1, right? We had Dennis Houston as a starting receiver week 1. Then Michael Gallup came back off of a knee surgery. He was not fully healthy. Then you had Noah Brown, who was a career special teams player. Then you had T.Y. Hilton, 33-year-old off the couch, right? The only consistently great receiver that we had all season was once Darian Lamb. And listen, he made the most of his opportunities. He showed up and showed out. He made all-pro selection this year. He was great. But our system, like the system that Kellen Moore is running, is not conducive to just having a bunch of no-name guys out there catching balls. Kellen might be here next year. He needs to go to how to scheme school. Yeah, Kellen Moore needs to do something because there is a very great chance that Kellen Moore will be back. Hey, West Coast, man, I appreciate you for tapping in with me, brother. We got West Coast Cowboy in the building. So, yeah, man, like Kellen Moore, it's a great chance that he could be back. He did have a second interview, but, there are already rumblings over there that they're tied to Frank Wright, so that he could be back. So, like an idea that West Coast had, because I ain't going to take credit for it, is like maybe get him a run game coordinator. But, at this point, what I'm saying? Like they're running the ball. They ran the, they had like the 5th most rushing attempts in the league. But my issue is they still going to have to figure out some of these passing concepts. Like I haven't watched the Kurt Warner breakdown for this game, but Kurt Warner dismantled Kellen Moore's scheme last season when he did the film study breakdown on these concepts. Like he just going through the film, hated this concept, this concept doesn't work against the defense call, blase. So like there are a bunch of things that Kellen Moore needs to fix. And I think there is a possibility for him to grow as a play caller. I think there is a possibility for him to grow as a coordinator. But we've seen a lot. He's been the play caller for 4 years now. Right? You usually don't have offensive coordinators stay this long. You don't want to all about Dak. Yeah, you need to help Dak Prescott improve. No matter, because listen, he's going to be the quarterback for at least the next 2 years. So, I know a bunch of people are highly upset with Dak Prescott because of how he played. And you know what? That is deservedly so. He played horrible in this last playoff game. However, said this is a player that I have to keep. This is a player who, on his best day, is still a top 5 quarterback. He has some bad lows, though. You've seen Dak Prescott play like a top 3 quarterback against the Tampa Bay Bucks, and then he turned around and played like a bottom quarterback, against the 49ers. You need somebody that can get the best out of Dak Prescott on a more consistent basis. And I don't think that Kellen Moore's scheme is conducive to that, right? It's a lot of option routes, a lot of throwing with hesitation, a lot of the receivers having to see the play the same way as the quarterback. So it's going to take some major overhauling to his system for me to even think about keeping Kellen Moore as my offensive coordinator, right? Because this man throws the ball a lot. He runs a lot of option route concepts. So what I would do, I really would prefer Mike McCarthy, to guide Dak Prescott. Because people forget about some of the quarterbacks that Mike McCarthy has coached. Mike McCarthy he coached Joe Montana before. He coached, Brett Favre. He coached Aaron Rodgers. Like, he's a guy, I know he has a bad reputation now because of the fallout with Aaron Rodgers and him being the Dallas Cowboys head coach now. But they used to look at Mike McCarthy as a quarterback savant, right? He used to be considered like a quarterback whisperer. The same way they look at Sean McVay, and all the other guys to get the best out of quarterbacks. Like I think that Mike McCarthy can help Dak Prescott a lot if you give Mike McCarthy a chance to put him in a system that he wants. So Mike McCarthy is a guy that came from a West Coast offense system. He's a guy, that leads in the long handoff. So like even though it's a pass, that's also a pass happy system. It's a system where the quarterback has full control. And when I say has full control, he's like there's no guessing on the routes. There is no guessing on the routes in the West Coast offense. Like as long as Dak Prescott is on his A game, he doesn't have to worry about anything. So like these anticipation throws over the middle, they are getting picked off because receivers aren't crossing the face of the safety in time, or guys that run the wrong route on the option. Like those things will not happen in a West Coast system. Like that could still get in trouble, trying to force the ball, but you'll never see the miscommunication interceptions. We run a pure West Coast offense. And when you think about Mike McCarthy's pedigree, he helped develop Joe Montana in that offense under Walsh. He helped develop Brett Favre into a Super Bowl winning quarterback. Well, I take that back. He was already a Super Bowl winning quarterback before he was his head coach, but he did help him in that. He helped Aaron Rodgers develop into Brett Favre's heir apparent in that same offense. So it will only make sense to implement an offense that your head coach is familiar with. It feeds to his strengths. It feeds to the strength of the personnel he want to put out there. And that is probably the best thing for your quarterback is to be with this guy that was considered a Hall of Fame coach at one point. If it's not Mike McCarthy, it at least needs to be somebody that Mike McCarthy picks. Because remember, Kellen Moore was here set in place when Mike McCarthy showed up. Mike McCarthy did not want Kellen Moore. He was part of the package deal in order to get the job, right? That's why Kellen Moore is still here as the offensive coordinator. They pushed Kellen Moore onto Mike McCarthy. This is not the guy that he wants running his plays. That's why Mike McCarthy has been vocal about some of the concepts that Kellen Moore runs. Like he said publicly, he did not like option routes. He said, in his system, it's predicated on getting your best players the ball. Like he said, it used to be whole play sheets on getting this person the ball, whole play sheet to getting that person the ball. Like, those are bread and butter things that the West Coast offense, gives you. It's a bunch of slants, bunch of passes and route concepts that are predicated on getting the ball out of the quarterback hands fast. So there's not a lot of guessing going on. The quarterback knows what a receiver will be. It's easier to throw to a spot. It's easier to keep getting quick chunk plays and moving the stick. Right? And that's something that you've seen Dak Prescott be able to do. That's why when we run our 2-minute offense, Dak Prescott looks so crisp. Those are similar things that you would see in the West Coast offense. What about hiring primetime for the OC, offensive coordinator? Well, listen, I do not think you talk about Deion Sanders, right? You talk about primetime. Like I don't think Deion, because he just got to Colorado. I don't think he would want to coach, as our offensive coordinator. I think he brought all them kids there. He did with his son. I think he'll stick with that job. And will we hire Sean Lee as the linebacker coach? I really don't know who I would want to come in as a linebacker coach. Right? If Sean Lee is up to it, he got a great football mind. Like he was never the most athletic or most explosive player, but he was always where he needed to be. He understood, how teams were finna attack the defense. That's why he was a guy that got his hand on a lot of balls as a linebacker. That's why he was able to make those all-pro selections. So if he was up to it, if he was committed to being a full-time linebacker coach, I wouldn't mind. I think there are other guys who have coaching experience that know how to teach. Because that's part of coaching. It's not just about knowing the game, it's about teaching the game, right? So there are other guys, other candidates we could probably bring in that could teach the game better than Sean Lee. There may not be as many people that know the game as well as Sean Lee, but there might be other guys that are better teachers. So, I want to weigh my options with anybody else we bring in. Mike Giles will be on the line next for sure. He should not let Kellen be his downfall. He needs to override some of Kellen play calls during the game. I think he does, man. Because, that's why they been those public shots. That's why Kellen Moore, spoke about not wanting to run the ball, but they've been running the ball anyway. Now, I think Mike McCarthy has his fingerprints on some of these things that they're doing. Like, Kellen Moore doesn't like to run the ball, but, yet and true, we're still top 5 in rushing attempts, right? Because he came from Boise State. They did not believe running the ball at all. So this by out the strength that we are running the ball so much when that is uncharacteristic for a Kellen Moore offense, I think Mike McCarthy has some input in that. But I do think he needs to be more involved, right? Like, as the head coach, you hear a crazy play call come over the headset, 86 that shit. Like, you the boss. Like, you're the one whose job and livelihood is on the line, and Kellen Moore cause some foolishness. So, yeah, I think you're right on that. Like, he should be more vocal in that regard. But I don't think Mike McCarthy's job is on the line. Because what if we do the same exact thing next year? Let's say we win 13 games next year, right? Or we win 12 games again, but this time it's enough to win the division. Let's say we're in the position that Philly's in, right? Let's say that we only have to win one game to go to the NFC Championship. So if we went to the NFC Championship next year, there's no way that Mike McCarthy loses his job. If we win another playoff game next year, even if it's only a wild card, there's no way that Mike McCarthy loses his job. Because listen, the guy that just left, Jason Garrett, he never won a playoff game in back-to-back seasons. He never did that. If Mike McCarthy wins a playoff game in back-to-back seasons, or he has 3 back-to-back 12-win seasons, there's not a chance in hell that Mike McCarthy is not the coach. There's not a chance in hell that he's not the coach. You got to think about it. The kind of success that we are having, even though it's only regular season, we have not actually seen in a very long time. Because, our old pattern was have a good season, miss the playoffs. Have a good season, miss the playoffs. Have a good season, miss the playoffs. Right now, we are consistently making the playoffs. Right? We have back-to-back 12-5 seasons. We've been to the playoffs 2 times in a row. We actually won a playoff game this year. We came damn close to being the number 2 seed on the road. So I don't think Mike McCarthy's job is in jeopardy. Now, if we miss the playoffs or we underachieve this season coming up, then yes. But just based off what he's done and what he's projected to do, I don't think he'll be gone. NFZ, what's good, man? I appreciate you for tapping in with me. So yeah, man, I don't see Mike McCarthy being gone. The person that needs to be gone is Kellen Moore. Kellen Moore, the quarterback's coach. Yeah, so Kellen Moore and the quarterback coach are the 2 guys that should be off the roster. I'm not sure why they fired the running back coach. I'm not sure why they fired the linebacker coach, given the circumstances. But you have a quarterback who was a Pro Bowler before you got here, who has regressed, right? And then you have an offense that over the last month of the season regressed. Because I know a lot of people focus solely on Dak Prescott having a bad playoff game, but Ezekiel Elliott had a bad playoff game. Tony Pollard, even though he got hurt, was not having a good game up to that point, at least in the run game. As a matter of fact, none of the other receivers had a good game outside of CD Lamb. So there's 11 people on the offense, and only one of them showed up. That is not entirely on your quarterback. Part of that is it has to be on your offensive coordinator, right? Because that's his job. And this is the thing. There's a difference between us seeing Dak Prescott struggle, and there's a difference between us seeing Dak Prescott struggle and Kellen Moore seeing Dak Prescott struggle. We just watching it on TV, right? If Dak Prescott is struggling and Kellen Moore does nothing, like, he might as well be on the couch with us watching the damn game happen. It's clear and obvious that your quarterback is struggling, but you keep the ball in his hand. You can control the plays that are called. The last interception that was thrown happened on a 2nd and 2 in the red zone. You put Dak Prescott in a position to throw the interception in the first place by calling that play. You had 3 downs because you had the 2nd down, 3rd down, and with the way our kicker was kicking, we would have went for it on 4th. You really had only 3 downs to get 2 yards. If we're being honest, there was no reason to call up the play. Now, Dak Prescott, he's the one that threw the interception. He made a bad read. He threw the ball late. I think he actually, because CeeDee Lamb he was running an option route. He expected Dak Prescott expected CeeDee Lamb to cross the linebacker's face. He did not. Instead, across his face, he stopped and went back. And Dak Prescott still tried to force the ball to him. Now, that is on Dak Prescott for throwing the interception. But Kellen Moore, you put Dak Prescott in that position to throw the interception when you could have ran the ball on 2nd and 2 and lived to play for 3rd down or lived to play, on the next thing. You had guaranteed points. I know that he had been missing field goals, but you were right in his field goal range. You still have, like I said, 3 downs to get to 2 yards. You could have just been conservative. You did not have to have Dak Prescott throw the ball in this situation. So I get it. Dak Prescott played a very shitty game, but Kellen Moore had control over some of that. Kellen Moore, was not an innocent bystander in this. He could have took the ball out of Dak Prescott's hands, let Malik Davis or Ezekiel Elliott run the ball. He could have called a couple more screen passes to make the read easier for Dak Prescott. He could have called more slants. There were other things that he could have did to help your quarterback instead of just watching him struggle in his system. Like, there's a difference between us seeing Dak Prescott struggle because we can't do anything about it. We can only cuss our TV out. Kellen Moore can get the ball out of his hands. Yeah, you had 3 chances to get 2 yards. There was no reason to even call a pass play. I know that Dak Prescott is the culprit behind the interception, but Kellen Moore put him in position to throw the pick. Right? So there are things we need to clean up. Dak Prescott, they say he has fault. He needs to play better. But like I said, I do remember seeing a better version of Dak Prescott without Kellen Moore. And that's my whole point. We seen Dak Prescott in 2 different systems. We seen Dak Prescott be the mobile, athletic, playmaking quarterback that we fell in love with without Kellen Moore, and we seen the guy that they try to turn to a pocket passer. Have a question for the Dak. I don't understand overflowing. What you had a question about Dak? What's up? Kick the field goal and see the second. Yeah, they were over aggressive in the situation. They were over aggressive in the situation. Because like I said, you could have ran the ball. You could have threw a screen. You could have made an easy read for Dak Prescott instead of giving him an option route in the middle of the field, waiting to see what CeeDee Lamb was going to do. Because Dak Prescott, if you go back and look, he was ready to chunk that mug in the middle of the field where the vacancy was. CeeDee Lamb did not cross his face and then broke it back. So I have a question for the Dak pocket watchers. If money wasn't an object, what quarterback do you want to pair Kellen Moore, since we all knew Kellen Moore bulletproof in Dallas? If money wasn't an object, Kellen Moore would need a quarterback. Hey, Ty Bond, what's good, King Folk? I appreciate you tapping in with me. If money wasn't an object, you would have to go and get a pure pocket passer, right? You would need to go get somebody. And this thing, like, nobody is built to throw the ball 40 plus times and succeed. Because, like, as I pointed out, Aaron Rodgers has a horrible record when you throw the ball 40 times. But a quarterback that better suits what Kellen Moore does is maybe like a Justin Herbert, who, while he is athletic, like, he is a big, tall quarterback that played at Oregon, throws the ball a lot. those are his strengths. Throwing the ball a lot. Dak Prescott's strength is off of play action. Dak Prescott's strength is running the ball. Dak Prescott's strength is being a low turnover quarterback. Like Dak Prescott is one of the best throwers on the run. Like Dak Prescott is a guy you always want to move the pocket with. Like that is some of the best play out of Dak Prescott you will ever get. He said, I was addressing the haters who constantly count Dak's money. And this is the thing. Dak Prescott doesn't even make that much money, right? Because Kyler Murray makes way more money than Dak Prescott. He did not make the playoffs, right? He missed the playoffs. He got hurt. But even if he didn't get hurt, like they were not going to make the playoffs either way. He had they were getting towed up over there. So even if he didn't get hurt, he was not close to making the playoffs. Aaron Rodgers, I know what he did in the past to earn that contract, but he didn't make the playoffs. He got sent home. Russell Wilson makes a lot of money. He was one of the worst quarterbacks in football this year. Still a great player. I think he'll get it together. But this year, he was horrible. So, like, people always overreact to Dak Prescott contract. Like, when you look at his contract, he's like the eighth highest paid quarterback right now, which is right in line with what most people think he is. He's a top 10 quarterback. He's somewhere within the 7 to 10 range. And, that suits him. Like, he's paid exactly what he's supposed to be paid. And look, Josh Allen, who's a $43 million quarterback, went home, in the same round as Dak Prescott and objectively played a worse game. Because you got to think about it. He was at home and scored 10 points. So, like people be pocket watching people money when it suits their narrative. They don't like Dak Prescott, so they look for stuff to nitpick about. That's really all it is. It's not like they paying them. They ain't got $40 million. They got to come up with to pay Dak Prescott. So it's a moot point. That is a moot point. So yeah. Also, moving forward, do you think his personal life affected him? I don't think so. I don't think it does because like Dak Prescott is a very driven, goal-oriented person. Just to be in the position that he's in. Right? He's a guy that lost his mother to cancer. He's a guy that the franchise dragged publicly in the media. He's a guy who lost his brother. Like Dak Prescott is a very mentally tough person. Like I think he relishes like the big game situation and things like that. That's why I always push back on people that say Dak Prescott doesn't show up for the big games. Like family, Dak Prescott played for the Dallas Cowboys. The media hypes up every damn game we play. Because remember, the biggest game of the season before this 49ers game was the Tampa Bay Buccaneers game. He showed up for that game, right? He had 5 touchdowns. He put up the best playoff performance in franchise history. The thing with people that don't like Dak Prescott or have questions about Dak Prescott is they'll never give Dak Prescott any credit until he wins a Super Bowl. And even when he wins a Super Bowl, they'll say that they'll try to put an asterisk beside it. They'll say that he had an easy schedule, or they'll say it was an easy matchup. They'll do anything to downplay Dak Prescott as long as he's the quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys. Yeah, I seen that he broke up with her, but like what people don't know, that actually happened months ago. They're just now publicly speaking about it. Like she's been out of the picture. And they were talking about that, like on certain circles on social media for a while at this point. They just now officially came out and said it, but they've been broken up for a couple months. They all in Dak Prescott, in Dak pockets. There is more players making more than Dak. Dak problem is the system that he play in and his OC. Yeah, I believe that. I do believe that Dak Prescott in a different system will be a better player because we already seen it. Remember, like I was saying, all Dak Prescott Pro Bowl selections came without Kellen Moore. Dak Prescott was Rookie of the Year without Kellen Moore. Dak Prescott's win percentage against winning teams was higher without Kellen Moore. Like Dak Prescott to help the Cowboys secure a number 1 seed without Kellen Moore. Dak Prescott beat Russell Wilson in a playoff game without Kellen Moore. All right, Dak Prescott, no, he did a whole bunch of things. He set a whole bunch of rookie records, franchise records, won a bunch of games without Kellen Moore ever being in the picture. Kellen Moore was on the sideline holding the clipboard as a backup when Dak Prescott was doing all these things. So I've seen Dak Prescott succeed in other systems, well before Kellen Moore was ever calling plays. And I think without Kellen Moore, he can get back to being a Pro Bowl caliber quarterback. Not to say he hasn't been a Pro Bowl caliber quarterback. He did throw for 37 touchdowns to only 10 interceptions just last year. But, I think he can get back to being a more efficient, less turnover prone, winning quarterback, without Kellen Moore in the mix. Because just the stuff that he's running is not benefiting Dak Prescott. Like, Dak Prescott is a guy who had 6 rushing touchdowns every year for his first 3 years. And then the very first year that Kellen Moore became offensive coordinator, he only rushed for 3. Right? Like, Dak Prescott has not rushed for more than 3 touchdowns in the season since Kellen Moore has been the offensive coordinator. Dak Prescott is, has not rushed as he became the coordinator, and that aspect of Dak Prescott game just completely disappeared. And listen, I know he broke his leg. I know that. But that is still a part of his game that they don't utilize. They don't call the quarterback sweeps as much anymore. They don't call the draws. Like Dak Prescott's signature play, he's kind of frail now. Well, he has some freak injuries, but he's not breaking bones or anything. Like he broke his thumb in the pocket at that. So it's not like he even got hurt running. Like he got hurt in the pocket. And Dak has been injured every year. Kellen Moore has been. Don't forget that too. Kellen Moore, damn albatross. Ooh, that is a good point. Yeah, outside of 2000, even in 2019, like Dak Prescott had an AC joint injury. So you're right. He has had some kind of injury every year that Kellen Moore's been here. I don't know. Kellen Moore might be bad luck for Dak. Kellen Moore was a second string QB and never had any experience with coaching. Yeah, like what people fail to realize is like Kellen Moore learned on the job, right? Kellen Moore learned entirely on the job for this. Like this is on job training for Kellen Moore. On job training for Kellen Moore. He had no prior experience, got thrown into the fire, and you know what? Any other time, I would be lenient on people, right? Because I still think down the line he can develop into a good coordinator. My thing is like we can't be the experiment. We can't be his stepping stone into becoming a good offensive coordinator. We have a core of players that we can succeed with and challenge for Super Bowl with right now, and we can't have him being one of the main reasons that we don't achieve what we want to achieve. Right? So let me ask you a question, just to show you the gravity of the impact that Kellen Moore has on this team. If Dak Prescott was playing like that and he was struggling, for handing out towels being an OC, if Dak Prescott was with Kyle Shanahan and Kyle Shanahan seen Dak Prescott struggling, would Kyle Shanahan keep calling the same plays for Dak Prescott, or would he take the ball out of Dak Prescott's hand and run the ball more and call little easy dump off passes to get Dak Prescott back settled, right? That's probably what Kyle Shanahan would do, considering that he was able to win playoff games with Jimmy Garoppolo, right? Because in the four playoff wins that Jimmy Garoppolo has, he threw 1 touchdown and 3 interceptions. He was able to win 4 playoff games with that production from that quarterback. So if Dak Prescott was playing bad with Kyle Shanahan would have a counter to either get Dak Prescott back right or to run the offense in a manner where Dak Prescott will not cost you the game. Kellen Moore offense lives and dies with the ability of Dak Prescott to play well. And when you got to think about this, it's a 17 game season, and if you don't have home court advantage, no, you don't. I mean, if you don't have like a first round bye, you got to play 4 games on the road. There is no way in hell Dak Prescott can play well for 21 games, right? If we got to win or lose just by Dak Prescott, playing well, there's not a chance that Dak Prescott can play well 21 straight games. That's not even reasonable. There's no quarterback that's not going to have an off day. So when your quarterback is struggling as the offensive coordinator, you need to know either A, how to get him back on track, or B, how to win the game without him having to be overtly involved. And what's even crazier is because Dak Prescott is a dual threat quarterback, you can still win the game with him without even throwing the ball that damn much. On that 2nd and 2, you could have called a quarterback run. You could have called a draw, a quarterback power. Like Dak Prescott could have still been involved in winning the game with you taking the ball out of his hands. Like he did not have to keep passing the ball when he was struggling like that. Dak Prescott legs or a weapon that could have been utilized, right? I know we lost Tony Pollard, but you still had Ezekiel Elliott. You still have Malik Davis. You still got a guy like Turpin who has 4.2 speed, who almost took one to the house, that you could have put the ball in their hands on a run or a sweep or a toss. Like and that is another reason why I have issues with Kellen Moore. Do you think that Kyle, like I'm gonna use Kyle Shanahan a lot because we see what he does with the guys on his roster. Is there any way in hell that Cavante Turpin could be a San Francisco 49er and he doesn't get his first pass until the last play of the season, right? Because the one pass that Cavante Turpin caught on the season was that little 8-yard dump off on the final play of the game. Kyle Shanahan would have schemed up so many different ways to get Turpin the ball in his offense. He would have hit his head on the goalpost at least 4 or 5 times this season. Is there any way, and I know Tony Pollard got hurt, but before that, is there any way that you could imagine having Tony Pollard on their roster and him not run a halfback option out the backfield, or him not run a swing or something out the backfield, right? Like we didn't see that in the playoff game when he was healthy. So my issue with Kellen Moore is that his system does not match what Dak Prescott does well. It does not match the strength of a mobile quarterback, and he also does not feature like the most explosive players in his team in a creative way. Like this man Turpin was an MVP of the league, ran a 4.2. A very dynamic guy. There's no way that you're supposed to be this offensive war wonder. You're supposed to be a genius, and you did not find a way to get him the ball. Right? There's no way that you could have Tony Pollard, who was a Pro Bowler, who was a wide receiver in college and a kick return specialist in college, ran a 4.3 at his pro day. There's no way that you don't get him the ball in the passing game, on a more consistent basis. Because really, when you think about the Achilles heel of our offense, we don't have a lot of speed. Like Tony Pollard is one of your most explosive players. Turpin is one of your most explosive players. And then you can say T.Y. Hilton, even though he was barely here. But, like a bunch of these guys who have potential to be explosive for you, they did not get the ball. Malik is going to be a beast. I believe he gets more carries. Even Turpin could have took the last one to the house, but he ran into the players instead of going outside. I don't know what the hell he was looking at. Like, that was a great return, but man, that should have been that. If he had went anywhere, listen, if he had went anywhere else on the damn field, he would have scored. If he had cut it in steeper, he would have scored. He would have. There was nobody else over there for pursuit. If he had just busted to the outside over here, he already had a guy blocking. Like he literally ran to the one area of the field where he could be tackled. Pissed me off so bad, but I do admire him for setting us up with like pristine field position. But he should have scored. And to hear the widows talking about we need more weapons. What good weapons do if you have Kellen Moore at the OC with zero Shane? That what frustrates me, bro. Yeah, like before we do anything as an offense, we need to decide if Kellen Moore is going to be our offensive coordinator going forward. Like that would affect the way I draft. That will affect everything, right? Because for one, if Kellen Moore is not your offensive coordinator next year, that means you have a different offensive system. That means you have different players that the new offensive coordinator values going forward. So if we get an offensive coordinator who is very run eccentric, let's say we get an offensive coordinator that wants to run an offense similar to what you see in Tennessee, he's probably going to push for us to draft one of these running backs. He'll probably push for the boy from Texas, or he'll push for Gibbs, the boy from Alabama. But if we get another guy that want to run some West Coast concepts, who needs a burner at the number 2 receiver position, we might draft another outside receiver. Like it depends, man. Like who our offensive coordinator is going forward is going to affect everything. It's going to affect our free agency. It's going to affect our drafting, especially if the next offensive coordinator coming forward is a guy that has the stamp of approval of Mike McCarthy. Mike McCarthy wants to run a West Coast style offense compared to the the option route eccentric offense that Kellen Moore runs. So it would affect a lot going forward depending on the OC. And like just throwing names out there. Who would y'all want to replace Kellen Moore? Right? Like there are plenty of guys I could think of. Like Greg Roman would be a good one. I even think I would say Byron Leftwich. He is a guy who is a good play caller. Not really a guy that likes to run the ball either. But I think that him and Mike McCarthy would mesh, right? I think that Mike McCarthy, he will respect Mike McCarthy enough to input, some power runs in there to complement the West Coast passing schemes. So, who is the offensive coordinator you would like to come in and take Kellen Moore's place? Because when we talk about replacing guys, we always need a solution. Like when people talk to me about replacing Dak Prescott, it's like if it was a chance to improve at the position, like I would take it. But you're just talking about replacing Dak Prescott with somebody like Derek Carr, who's less accomplished, or Baker Mayfield, or somebody just to say you have a different quarterback. I don't want to hear no shit like that. Frank Reich. What's crazy is Frank Reich is actually auditioning for a head coaching job. Frank Reich is actually the reason that Kellen Moore is probably going to be a Cowboy next year, because Frank Reich is also on Carolina's radar. Nathaniel Hackett. This is the thing, right? I don't know if I want Nathaniel Hackett because I just seen Nathaniel Hackett with Russell Wilson. And Russell Wilson is a more accomplished quarterback. He's a guy that won a Super Bowl, been to 2, made multiple Pro Bowls, is probably going to be a Hall of Fame quarterback. And Nathaniel Hackett made him look horrible. I do not want Nathaniel Hackett just off the fact that he did not make he made Russell Wilson look pedestrian this year, and I know Russell Wilson is a dog. Tony Romo. If Tony Romo was willing to take a pay cut, because I think he's a great offensive mind, I think he would I think he would succeed at the position. But I don't think Tony Romo come out there and move. He makes way more money than any offensive coordinator will ever make, and he can't get fired. All right, because he could have a bad season and be gone. He got job security, a bag, and he only got to work a couple months after the year. When you're an offensive coordinator, like this shit is year round. Even when the season is over, you're still scouting, you're still improving the system, fine tweaking things, watching film on guys you want to bring in for the draft, different things like that. Joshua Fisher, what's up with you, man? What's good with you? So now I don't think Tony Romo would even want the job. I think he would excel at the job, but I don't think Tony Romo wants to coach. Like he got one of the best gigs in America right now, sports wise. He was good and terrible. Yeah, Norris Turner's son is a plus. Love his running scheme. I would bring in a guy. And listen, I would bring in a guy that's run heavy as long as we are running pure West Coast concepts. I want to run a system where Mike McCarthy that's in Mike McCarthy's wheelhouse. Because Mike McCarthy has a great track record, with quarterbacks. He has a great track record with Joe Montana. He had a great track record with Brett Favre. He had a great track record with Aaron Rodgers. And I know a bunch of people will say, yeah, but they're all-time greats. Yeah, but they are. But Aaron Rodgers still needed to develop. He had to sit behind Brett Favre. And, Mike McCarthy helped groom him. Right? He was a quarterback's coach over there with Joe Montana. So, like, he's a coach that they confided in. Like, he knows what he's doing in a West Coast system. So I think we should bring in a play caller that suits what Mike McCarthy is used to. Mike McCarthy can actually be a mentor to Dak Prescott at that point because he's running a system that he understands, that he knows the ins and outs of, can help coach him up. Because you really didn't get a lot out of your quarterbacks coach. Nussmeier, how you pronounce his name? Like Dak Prescott has regressed. Dak Prescott ain't never do 15 interceptions before. He ain't never did nothing like that. That's new territory. So, I think doing that will go a long way in fixing your offense. Man, listen, ain't nobody finna hire Kellen Moore. Like Kellen Moore, best chance at getting hired was winning. Listen, even if we didn't win this last game, right? They needed to at least see Kellen Moore put up some points against their defense. They scored 12 points, dog. 12. And everybody on your offense looked bad. Your quarterback looked bad. Your running back looked bad. Your second running back looked bad. Your offensive line got called for holding. Like nobody on your offense even showed up except for CeeDee Lamb. CeeDee Lamb packed his lunch and went to work. Hey, Tavis Banks, what's up with you, my guy? I appreciate you for coming in, man. Yeah, so like, man, no. Like, they probably ain't gonna hire that boy. That's why Frank Wright name popped up. Like after that Tampa Bay game, there was a good chance he could have got hired. But after laying the egg, only scoring 12 points on national TV, they're not going for that. And then you have a bad track record when you don't have Dak Prescott. Like the gaudy numbers that Kellen Moore puts up, they disappear when Dak Prescott is not the quarterback. You go look at all these other guys. You remember the stretch when, matter of fact, Dak Prescott, when he got hurt, we went from being the number one offense in football to being one of the worst in football, right? So let me go back and look. The first game that Kellen Moore did not have Dak Prescott. Let me tell you how many points we scored. I'm not even talking about this year, like ever. So remember, back in 2020, Dak Prescott got hurt. He left the Giants game with that injury. It was the first start of one Andy Dalton. We went to Arizona, and we scored 10 points. We scored 10 points with Andy Dalton, who at the time was considered the best backup quarterback in football. We had CeeDee Lamb. We had Amari Cooper. We had Michael Gallup. I forget the tight end we had. It was either Jarwin or I think it was Jarwin. It could have been Blake Jarwin. We had all these offensive guys, and we had Ezekiel Elliott, and he scored 10 points. And that wouldn't be as egregious if we didn't see the offense before, right? Because Dak Prescott was scoring 40 points, right? He had just dropped 40 on Atlanta. Then he had that 5 touchdown game against the Browns where we try to come all the way back, and Odell Beckham had like a 50-yard touchdown run on a reverse. And then he scored like 28 or 30 points against Seattle. So Dak Prescott was going crazy, right? He was going crazy. Wasn't winning games, but he was throwing for a bunch of yards, bunch of touchdowns, and everybody was talking like, well, anybody can do that in this system. Well, apparently that wasn't true because when Andy Dalton got his happy ass in there, we scored 10 points against the Cardinals, and then we struggled on offense for the rest of the year. So, like, just from his track record, when Dak Prescott is not there, Kellen Moore does not succeed. So why would anybody want to hire Kellen Moore? Because there's enough proof that his success is tied to Dak Prescott. Cooper Rush had us at the 26th ranked as the 26th ranked offense. Andy Dalton did not succeed with Kellen Moore. Cooper Rush really didn't succeed with Kellen Moore because we were winning games based off the strength of the defense, right? Defense was holding teams to 16, 17 points. And we were winning by the skin of our teeth on field goals and stuff. And that's the point when Kellen Moore knew Dak could throw 50 times. Yeah. Like all of Kellen Moore's success is tied to the play of Dak Prescott. Because Garrett Gilbert failed. Ben DiNucci failed. Cooper Rush failed. Andy Dalton failed. Playing with Kellen Moore. Neither one of those guys produced the points, the touchdowns, or anything that Dak Prescott had. And it's not like it was just a slight drop-off. It was a huge drop-off. It was a huge drop-off from Dak Prescott to the next guy playing in Kellen Moore's system. So the only way, like, listen, like, why would a team hire Kellen Moore if Dak Prescott's not coming too? That's the only guy that he's shown he's been able to win with. That's the only guy he's shown he's been able to put up these numbers with. So, like, number one offense, all that other shit, that sounds good on paper. That sounds good. But when you look and it's tied to the availability of a top 10 quarterback, that's not much. So you mean to tell me you need a top 10 quarterback to be a good offensive coordinator? Because look, 2020, you still had all your wide receivers. You still had all your wide receivers. Defense was bad, but no, you were still scoring points with Dak. You were winning 41-38 or losing 50-42, but you were scoring 40 points. All that went out the window when Dak went down. Notice how folks calling for Dak's head aren't caping for Cooper Rush right now. No, they know better. Cooper Rush is a career backup for a reason. There's nothing wrong with that. They hire him if they want to tank. Yeah, Cooper Rush, man, like that was overblown from the beginning. Like winning games by the skin of your teeth, having to score defensive touchdowns, having to score special team touchdowns, all this other shit we had to do to win games. Like, that was never going to be sustainable, right? And then the Cooper Rush, people don't talk about it. He was second in the league in turnover worthy plays with his time as a starter, and all that stuff came back to bite him in that Philadelphia game. He really should have thrown about 8 interceptions, right? But people just weren't catching the ball. Like, he was second in the league in turnover worthy plays, and then he finally threw those 3 interceptions in the Philly game. They ended all doubt about a quarterback controversy. There was never a quarterback controversy to begin with, but man, people took that shit and ran with it. Let's hope Carolina hires him and Steve Smith don't step on his toes. Steve Smith ain't said nothing wrong. That boy is horrible. Steve Smith smoked the truth. But I do hope that Kellen Moore is somewhere next year. I need him to be for the sake of my team. I need to get back to seeing consistency from Dak Prescott. Because listen, people were not calling Dak Prescott inconsistent before Kellen Moore brought his ass over here. People were saying a bunch of other stuff that wasn't true. They said he was a dink and dunk quarterback. They say he wasn't aggressive enough. They say he was too careful. They say he wasn't flashy. This and that. But he was winning games, and he was winning games. He was winning games at a 2-1 rate, 32 wins, 16 losses, 2 Pro Bowl selections, Rookie of the Year. 67 touchdowns to, let me count it up, right? Because he only threw 4 interceptions his first year, right? He threw 8. He threw 13 the next year, then he threw 8. So he was 67 touchdowns to 25 interceptions. And that's not even counting the rushing touchdowns that he had. He had 18. So Dak Prescott had 85 total touchdowns to only 25 interceptions without Kellen Moore. All those turnover numbers jumped. When Kellen Moore passed happy ass became the offensive coordinator. Sounds like Kellen Moore is the, hold on, because this thing's be getting cut off. Let me look. He needs to be perfect scenario successful, not so much that put up got a number with Houston. Yeah, that's true. We had a horrible defense that year. But Dak Prescott was the only reason we were even in those games. Right? We were in those games. Defense wasn't that good that year. And that's the reason Dak Prescott was on pace to throw for 6,000 yards. We had never been that had never happened before in the NFL. He was on pace to throw for 6,000 yards, and probably would have broke every single passing yards record had he not been injured. That's how much Kellen Moore had him throwing the ball. And that stuff is good on paper, but I'd rather win games. Eli, what's up? Hey, what's up with you, Eli, man? What's good with you, kinfolk? I appreciate you tapping in. So, if you're just now tapping in with us, right? We discussed the Cowboys needing to move on from Kellen Moore. We also discussed the fact that they're firing the wrong coaches, right? They fired their linebacker coach. They fired their running back coach. Your running back coach produced a Pro Bowl running back, and he had 2 guys that would have had 1,000 yards rushing. Had one that got injured, and then your linebacking coach, he got the best out of LBE for the first time in a long time. And when you really think about it, we were running a bunch of safeties on the field anyway. So why are you crucifying the linebackers coach? So those are 2 guys that I would have kept. I would not have kept your quarterback coach, and I would not have kept your offensive coordinator. Those are the 2 guys that should have had their head on the chopping block. Your quarterback has regressed. Your offense did not look good in really over the last month. Your offense took a step back. Your offensive coordinator did not find a way to shore up the offensive line. That's who, Philbin. I take that back. I would fire the offensive coordinator. I would fire the offensive line coach, and I would fire the quarterback coach. Because those are the areas on your team that struggled the most this year, right? Because listen, last year, because Philbin was here last year, you had the most penalized offensive line in football, and you were bottom in pass protection. This year, you still got penalized a lot, and you actually got worse at pass protection this year. So there's no way in hell that the old line coach should have stayed in place. Just off that alone, there's no way. There's 2 consecutive years of my offensive line regressing. And listen, injuries happen, especially to your offensive line. That is part of the game. So you got to have these guys ready to play. You have to come up with a good combination on the offensive line. Even when guys are missing, you need to find a way to put your best 5 on the field to be productive. And instead, what we did is play musical chairs with our offensive line the entire year. We played musical chairs with our offensive line the entire year. Use so many different combinations at the offensive line. So no, I would get rid of Philbin. Nussmeier, you the quarterback's coach. My quarterback has not been playing well. This is probably his worst season as a pro. You got to go too. Kellen Moore. Your play calling is part of the reason why Dak Prescott has all these interceptions. O-line regressing is Dak's fault. Bring back safe Dak. Hey, I would. I definitely would bring back safe Dak. Because listen, you can be aggressive and still be careful with the ball. Like calling a 9 route with CD Lamb, that's aggressive, but it's still a safe ball. It's a safe ball. It's a safe play. It's a safe play. A corner route. It's an aggressive play, but it's still relative to throwing the ball in between the numbers. It's a safe play. Like there are ways to take shots and push the ball down the field without putting the ball in harm's way. I do want Dak Prescott to take more shots, but I also don't want to see the curls, the comebacks, the option routes, like all these routes that these defensive backs and linebackers can squeeze and jump. Take them out, especially with the personnel that you have. Like CD Lamb and some of these guys will be much better running crossing routes, over routes, slants, posts. Like those are more of the routes you need to see from your playmakers instead of these, especially if you're going to run the ball at the rate that you run it. You can't run the ball as much as we run the ball and then marry it with a bunch of comeback routes. Because just off the principle of you running the ball at that clip, you're going to already have extra defenders in the box in the vicinity sitting down on a lot of this stuff, expecting to run. You can't then also throw the ball in that area when they're already sitting there. You haven't thrown the ball deep at all. There's no reason for them to respect a comeback route. You haven't went deep once. There's no threat of a wide receiver, kicking it into top gear and running past you. So if you don't take enough deep shots, if you run the ball that much, you don't take no deep shots off of play action. Of course, they're going to sit. They're going to sit these little curl routes. Of course, front office is saving those offensive coaches for Kellen Moore's coaching staff when it comes to head coach. Just my conspiracy theory. I mean, like hell, they do a bunch of backward stuff. So like, you never really know with the front office. They really could do something crazy like that. I don't know if it's the case, but like, it's not a bad conspiracy theory. We always knew that they were grooming Jason Garrett for years and trying to push out the other head coach we had in place. My question is, why doesn't Jerry see that Kellen Moore is not consistent nor a good match for Dak? I don't know. And it's not like Jerry Jones doesn't know football. Like, I'm from Arkansas. Like, he was part of our national championship team back in the day. Right? So he knows football. He was D1. He was a D1 athlete. He knows football. But, he has made some questionable decisions. Would you cut Zeke? Because I want to drop Zeke and draft a new running back. It depends. It depends. If we are able to draft the Robinson boy from Texas, if he's there at 26, then yeah, I would move on from Ezekiel Elliott and save the cap space. Because if you cut, because listen, nothing is going to happen with Ezekiel Elliott until at least June the 2nd. Because if you cut Ezekiel Elliott on June the 2nd, you save $10 million. You're only on the hook for the $5 million that he's owed in his prorated signing bonus. So if Ezekiel Elliott is cut on June the 2nd, then the team will save $10 million. So that's around the time frame you can expect him to be cut. Nothing else is going to happen to Ezekiel Elliott before then. So you'll know by draft time if Ezekiel Elliott is still going to be a Dallas Cowboy. Because the Dallas Cowboys draft Robinson in the first round, there's a high probability that neither of these running backs will be back. There's a good probability that Tony Pollard and Ezekiel will be gone if that is the case. Because look, Jerry is not going to invest in the first round pick running back and have him splitting carries. Because remember, when Ezekiel Elliott got drafted in the first round, they ran the shit out of him. Like, that is the reason why Ezekiel Elliott has slowed down so much. He carried the shit out the ball like those first years in the league. Like, he got a bunch of wear and tear on that body. He's young, But Ezekiel Elliott been in, has run the ball so much. That's one reason he slowed down at this point. So that's the thing. If they are able to draft Robinson, Bijan Robinson from Texas, there's no way that I think Jerry Jones keeps Ezekiel Elliott. I would be hesitant to draft a new wide receiver if Kellen is still here. Yeah, because listen, I don't blame you. You have to figure something out at offensive coordinator before you make these personnel moves. You know, that's the main thing. You have to figure out something to do, because if Kellen Moore comes back as your offensive coordinator, you need to get him a run game coordinator. And I'm not even taking credit for that. That's something that West Coast said. That's something my cousin said. It's a very good idea though, so I'm running with that. You need somebody to help him with that. And look, he needs to change some of his concepts. I'm not saying throw the entire thing away, because of course there are things that work, right? You've seen some of his concepts work, but you can't do it that much. You need to have like more pure West Coast offense concepts inside of this system. So if Kellen Moore stays, he's going to have to spend this offseason fine-tuning his system. He's going to have to be more willing to run the ball without a gun to his head, right? Because one of the reasons he's running the ball is Mike McCarthy is making him. That's become apparent through the interviews. So he needs to be more willing to run the ball. He needs to be more willing to utilize more West Coast concepts like slants and all these other staples, and all these other staples, and get away from these option routes. And we need to probably give him a run game coordinator to help him stay consistent running the ball. Like, there's going to be some things that have to change if Kellen Moore is to stay as the offensive coordinator, because you cannot waste these last 2 years of having Dak Prescott on the contract. Because listen, right now, you do not have a quarterback on the roster outside of Dak Prescott. Cooper Rush is a free agent. All right. So Cooper Rush, unless you re-sign Coop, he gonna hit that free agent market. He gonna try to parlay those wins he got earlier this season into a starting job somewhere. And he's not a horrible quarterback. He's not a top 20 quarterback, but he might be a bottom 30. He can start somewhere, right? He starts somewhere that needs a quarterback, maybe. So he'll probably be going to get that one and only bag he'll get, and salute to him for doing it. But you have nothing behind Dak Prescott. So this year, you know for a fact that you got Dak Prescott for at least the next 2 years. You need to draft a quarterback at least in the third to fourth round. You found Dak in the fourth round. So at the third or fourth round, you need to draft you a quarterback to develop behind Dak Prescott. And you need to draft a quarterback who has similar skill set. So in case Dak Prescott does get hurt, you do not have to change your offense to cater to the new guy. Remember, when Cooper Rush came in, they were running an entirely different offensive set compared to what they would run with Dak Prescott, right? Because Dak Prescott, you can run an option. You can run a quarterback keeper, right? You can run a naked bootleg with Dak Prescott and get him outside of the pocket and change the launch platform of the pass. You really cannot do that stuff with Cooper Rush because he lacked mobility. So moving forward, you would like to draft a quarterback that mirrors closely what Dak Prescott does. And on the off chance that Dak Prescott gets hurt, this guy can come in and you can run the same offense. And even better, Dak Prescott, with the kind of person that Dak Prescott is, I don't think he'll have an issue mentoring a guy. I don't think Dak Prescott would act like Brett Favre with Aaron Rodgers. I think that he would mentor the dude while he's here. And then look, there's still a good chance that Dak Prescott could resign or stay. So, get you a quarterback in here. You don't have a backup going forward. And, You can't upgrade the quarterback that you have because I know everybody's mad at Dak Prescott, but he's still a top 10 quarterback, right? Y'all do know that, right? He's still a top 10 quarterback. I know everybody is mad at Dak Prescott. They want him crucified, nailed to the cross, but he's still a top 10 quarterback. He had a very shitty game at the worst time, right? But he's still a top 10 quarterback. When you just look at his body of work, one of the few quarterbacks that are in the league that have multiple playoff wins. You know, that matter of fact, I want y'all to understand this. Like I know I might have said this already, but Dak Prescott is top 10 all time in completion percentage. He's top 10 all time in passer rating, and he is top 10 all time in touchdown to interception ratio. So while he is not a perfect quarterback, like he is a damn good quarterback that will be hard to replace, right? Like Derek Carr, who was a solid quarterback, is a downgrade from Dak Prescott, and like he's like one of the main guys that would be available. So there really is not an upgrade for Dak Prescott right now. Hold on, we got a call coming in. West Coast Cowboy, you live with me? What's good, Ken folks? Yeah, what's good, man?
Hey, I need you to do me some favor.
What's that?
When we gonna do our show again in the morning. You down? First off, you say find that out.
Yeah, I'll be down. I can make it around the same time.
All right. So what time is that? What time is that?
That was 11 something my time. So it was like 9 something you went on, right?
All right. Yeah. I don't know what time it was, but yo, I need you to be more aggressive about talking because people have
the Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a bit. But hey, you want to jump? Hey, I'm still on here right now, kinfolk. Nah, I took y'all speaking. Yeah, so we good. Bet. I'm gonna put you back on speaker. You can talk to the people, man. Put you back on speaker. You talk to the people. We got West Coast Cowboy in the building. How's everybody doing, man?
Go ahead.
Now go ahead. Speak to them, kinfolk. They been listening to me talk for an hour and a half. Talk to them.
Man, shoot, man. I just want to let you know I'm very proud of you, man. You know what I'm saying? I'm very proud. Like, you know what I mean? You literally just started this season, man. Already got your stuff booming. Understand the direction you want to go in your brand, and you execute it, man. So, good job on. Congratulations on that. But this blogging stuff, man, is crazy. It's definitely crazy, man, because you see aspects of the game from a content creator, but then you also see aspects of the game from an actual fan.
Right.
And last year, I think when we lost to the 49ers, my fan heart was hurt. You know what I'm saying?
Mine too.
Like, I'm gonna tell y'all, like, I keep saying this to y'all, man. And folks, they trying to cancel West Coast, but you can't cancel me in the offseason. You can't cancel me in the offseason. It just says that. There's gonna be a time where there's gonna be 2 months of nothing to talk about, and y'all gonna want some West Coast.
And real talk.
You can't cancel me in the offseason.
So yeah, man. Hey, let me ask you real quick. What are your thoughts about them firing these two coaches? Because like I was saying on my show, man, like those aren't the guys who heads needed to roll. Like, I think they were.
This is my thing. This is my thing, bro. I think it's weird that you hire supplementary coaches before you to a guy called, or do something about the guy calling plays. Now, I can guarantee you because of how the Cowboys do business, and they know that Kellen Moore is trying to get a job. Mm-hmm. The old man, Grandpa and Jerry's not going to do that. You know what I'm saying? He's not going to do that, right? He's not going to let him. He's not going to let him go before he tries to get a job, thinking that he could possibly get a job. You know what I'm saying? But I was a little surprised by the running back coach simply because Same thing we talked about earlier today. He had a 1,000-yard rusher, and Zeke would have been a 1,000-yard rusher hadn't it been for
injured
2 games missed.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? He would have been a 1,000-game rusher. Zeke is a phenomenal pass blocker. They really didn't even like, to be honest with you, man. Like, you really judge a coach off of not really Zeke, off of Tony Pollard and Malik Davis. And when those guys got opportunities, they look good. So I didn't see a reason why they fired the running back coach. And this is going to be like the third running back coach Zeke has had in 7 years. Like, at some point, people have to get somebody at stake. You know what I'm saying? You can't fire your assistant coaches every 2 years. Like, that's ridiculous.
Right. And when you really look at
coach,
the
linebacker coach, I ain't gonna lie, I felt kind of bad for him because, you know, he was trying to big mama, but he ain't no big mama. You know, he like 30 years old. You gotta be at least 60 to be big mama. Like, you gotta have experience. And I just don't think he had enough experience to have a linebacking core of LB. Like, LBE is your best linebacker. I don't think he was good enough for that.
Right. And look, like, he got LBE playing his best football since his rookie season. So I think he won in that aspect, especially when you consider he had Damone Clark able to play with no training camp. LBE played pretty damn good considering he was playing out of position. And then you had all these guys playing big nickel, you know, instead of actual linebackers out there. So that's not even on him. That's really the defensive back coach on that in that aspect. And look, your linebackers still contributed to one of the best defenses in football. So I don't think either one of those guys should have lost their job. But the quarterback coach, like, he should be fired on principle. Your quarter.
You know, hey, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Okay, yeah. You know, I don't know, man. You know, I don't know. I ain't gonna lie. You know, I did a whole show where on this, and I literally said I don't know like 3 times. Like, I don't know. I'm saying, like, I don't know. That's not who I would have necessarily let go. Like, leaving out of that playoff game. Like, if I'm the running backs coach, I'm like, bro, how can you fire me? Like, this dude don't even want to use my guys. Like, I would have been that guy. Like, my exit interview would have been lit. That's all I'm saying.
Oh, my mama.
My exit interview would have been lit. Because everybody would have been getting a piece of my mind. Like, bro, and while we on the subject, this goofy looking motherfucker right here, he don't even want to run the ball. Like, goddamn it, Tony Pollard went hurt. I put Malik Davis in. He didn't even give Malik Davis a carry.
Yeah, Malik Davis came in for a pass block.
Tony Pollard's 221 yards over the last 5 games. 0 touchdowns.
Yeah, the running game took a big dip, and it was not on the actual running backs. Like, they just were not getting carries, the offensive line, and that's really one of the reasons why Philbin should be gone. Because listen, like, your line has regressed every year. Like, you were the most penalized line in football last year, and you were bottom in pass protection. You still weren't great in penalties this year over the course of the year, and you were even worse in pass protection. So just with that alone, you should have been gone.
But you know what the crazy thing about the Cowboys are, bro? They'll use what we're saying to keep filming, but it won't be used to keep anybody else. And that's why I get mad when people say excuses, because excuses are all about how you accept them, right? Because guess what? You can tell Philbin the same thing. Like, he'll tell Philbin, like, bro, the offensive line regrets. You know, he's gonna say, yeah, but man, you know, I had a different offensive line starting. I had 2 offensive linemen damn near get lost for the entire season. I lost my center. Like, at every you know what I'm saying? You gotta be able. It's like, how are you gonna be able to extend filming that olive branch, but you don't extend that same olive branch for everybody? And that's why I be saying, and you see that's evident too in a bigger scale with Dak Prescott and Josh Allen. Like, why aren't people trying to kick Josh Allen off his team? You know what I'm saying? Why aren't they saying Josh Allen must be traded? He must be cut. Why are they not doing that? Right.
And then it was even a bigger disappointment for them.
At home.
Yeah, they were the 2 seed. They were the 2 seed. They lost at home.
The NFL predicted them to win the Super Bowl this year. What is folks talking about?
Right. They didn't have us making the playoffs for the season.
And think about this. They were the 2 seed, so they were literally one team outside of hitting the expectations that folks thought they were.
So yeah, they underachieved worse than us. We overachieved this year. We're being honest.
We overachieved, absolutely.
Definitely overachieved. So yeah, Cowboys did a bunch of dumb
At the
shit.
beginning of the season, before all this started, I wouldn't have been like, I think the Cowboys can make, because bro, we lost Amari Cooper, you lost all those free agents, bro. Then think about this: we were already down. Then freaking 3 quarters into a first game of the season, you lose your quarterback.
Yeah, then you lost Tyron Smith in training camp.
So yeah, so I said, like even when I was on the show with Law last night, I said, man, the number one thing the Cowboys did over the years is overcame. Like we didn't really get to build or improve because we were too busy overcoming. You know what I'm saying? You can't improve a team when you're trying to overcome your faults. Dallas Cowboys were trying to overcome. The reason why your wide receiver room never really got better is because you never overcame the hole. Amari Cooper was 800 yards and like 9 touchdowns of a hole that you never filled. Yeah, there was moments that we filled with T.Y. Hilton, but we never filled that, bro.
Right.
And that's why right now we still have that void.
And listen, and it's not even just Amari Cooper, because Cedric Wilson gave you over 600 yards and 6 touchdowns.
Bro, Cedric Wilson would have been a 1,000-yard receiver had he would have stayed in Dallas this year. Under all the circumstances, I'm gonna tell you this right now. Cedric Wilson would be looked at probably as one of the top number 2 receivers in football. Because you got to think like this: we didn't even know CeeDee Lamb was a good receiver until like the Green Bay game. So imagine if Cedric Wilson would have came in out the gate balling, bro. He could have snuck up on CeeDee Lamb messing around.
No, he could have easily been our second 1,000-yard receiver. Like you got nothing from the other receivers anyway.
Nothing. And if you have Cedric Wilson, James Washington doesn't happen, Odell Beckham doesn't happen.
T.Y. Hilton probably doesn't happen either.
Doesn't happen. There's a lot that doesn't happen in the wide receiver room. Think about this: Dennis Houston probably doesn't get an opportunity to start on this team, which he did week 1.
And look, and that did not pan out.
No, it
Yeah,
didn't.
so they definitely have some stuff they need to work on because and like I was saying on the show, man, because we got to figure out early if we're going to keep Kellen Moore. Like there's a good chance that he can be retained, but
what we really need to find out, Cuzzo, is not that we're going to keep him because he's under contract. We need to find out, is he going to get this job or not?
Yeah,
that's
but
the only way.
See, that's the thing. I don't want him here. Like they need to, even if he doesn't get the job, I want him to move on. I know they won't, but I also mentioned like one of your ideas. Like they're gonna have to. He gonna have to go in and fine tune his entire system if he has to stay. Like he needs to get a run game coordinator if he stays, and he needs to have somebody help him implement more West Coast concepts into his offense. Because like I was saying, like if you actually change this offense to a West Coast offense, you actually get a second quarterback coach in Mike McCarthy. Because Mike McCarthy, before he was viewed the way he was viewed, people looked at him as a quarterback savant. Because he was the guy that helped Joe Montana as a quarterback coach. He was the guy that was with Brett Favre. He was the guy that groomed Aaron Rodgers. So people looked at him as a quarterback savant because he's from Bill Walsh's coaching tree. So
yeah, and then, you know what? And I'm gonna tell you, the fact that Dak Prescott struggles lets you know that Mike McCarthy isn't really being asked to do that.
Exactly. I think if you get back into a West Coast offense, something that's in his wheelhouse, something that he knows the ins and out of, you will get better quarterback play from Dak Prescott because you will get, in essence, a second quarterback coach. That's really why I want them to let Mike McCarthy bring in an offensive coordinator that he wants, right? Because, like I was saying, Kellen Moore is a guy there's a remnant of the last regime. He's the last holdout of the last regime that was there who had favor with the front office. Like, he's not a guy that Mike McCarthy sought after and wanted to be his OC. He was just here in place. He wanted the job, so he accepted him. But I think if we get an OC that he wants, that aspect of his coaching ability can actually shine through. Because people always knew that he had issues with clock management and stuff. The reason that he was a good coach is because of his offensive system and his ability to elevate quarterbacks. You're not getting any of that right now with Kellen Moore in place.
That's true.
So that's why I think like a wholesale, like I don't want Kellen Moore here. Even if he does not get the job, they need to have a conversation with Kellen Moore. He might need to be an executive or something for the Cowboys. They won't ever fire him, but they could probably move him to a different position, with some more credibility, and it won't look like a failure on his resume. They won't let him publicly fail, but they need to find a way to get offensive coordinator that wants to do the things that the head coach wants into the building, and that's the only way to do it.
And let me call right back in because of.
All right, it's a bet, man. I appreciate you for calling in, Kinfolk.
All right.
So that was West Coast Cowboy that tapped in with us for a little bit. I appreciate him for calling in, having the conversation. Yeah, like Kellen Moore needs to be gone, right? Because you're losing out on the best aspects of your head coach by having him in place running this system. You think Kellen Moore deflected responsibility in case it wasn't good on the deal for him? You never know. He could be. I don't know these people personally, but this is a very gritty, this is a very gritty game that these folks in. It's like Game of Thrones. Like everybody stabbing everybody in the back behind the scenes for the most part. You do have some people that are buddy for real, clicked up, but it's a dog eat dog world. If Kellen Moore stays, I'm not going to watch any of the games. I'll be supported from a distance. Listen, I think. Oh, did they say that Joe Philbin got fired? Hold on. Let me see. Because Joe Philbin just got fired. I'm not happy that the man got. Listen, I'm not the kind of person that want to send people into the unemployment line, right? I don't want to do that. But it'd be a beautiful thing, us moving forward. Let's see. News. Hold on. Let's see. Oh, hell yeah. Hell yeah. Hey, that's a win right there. That is a win right there. And I'm not, listen, I hope, they honor the rest of his contract. Damn, they let go of Leon Lett. They can go, they clearing house. All right, so offensive line coach Joe Philbin and Leon Lett have officially been let go. All right, so we got what we wanted. Right? We were talking about the regression of the offensive line. We were talking about them being a highly penalized unit. We were talking about them being, towards the bottom in pass block win percentage. And that what happens when you're when the skill position set that you're over does not produce. Let me give you the raw numbers. I'm gonna give you last year. I'm gonna give you this year. Pass block win rates 2021. All right, let's take a look. I'll give you the exact numbers on them. All right. So last year, the Dallas Cowboys were 23rd in pass block win rate. And we had the most penalties of any offensive line in football. Right? So you look at 2022. Boom. Let's see what the stats are for that this year. All right. Pass block win rates. And this year, the Dallas Cowboys are 28th. So Joe Philbin's offensive line was first in penalties last year and 23rd in pass blocking. And this year, they're still high in penalties, and they're the 28th ranked pass blocking line. So yes, they had to fire him. They had to fire him. I saw that Pete's was gone. I saw that the linebacker coach was gone. I don't agree with them being fired, right? Because he produced a Pro Bowl running back. He produced 1,000-yard rusher. He would have had 2,000-yard rushers had Ezekiel Elliott not got injured. No reason to fire the running back coach. He did his job. Linebacker coach, as we touched on, LVE played well. Clark played well. Yeah, they're reporting late on that though. Like everybody that's in the know they've been broken up for months. It's just officially public knowledge. They're late. They late to the show. Like people that on social media have been knowing about this for months. Because even Tad Prescott, spoke about it, but that's neither here nor there. QB should be gone too. Well, the QB coach or the quarterback? Because we know we can't get rid of Dak Prescott. Wide receiver. Oh, talking the coaches. Well, yeah, I definitely would get rid of Nussmeier. Because listen, I've seen Dak Prescott be a Pro Bowl quarterback without them in the building. Dak Prescott ain't never in his life threw 15 interceptions before, right? So something's wrong. If my $40 million quarterback who didn't have an interception problem suddenly starts throwing interceptions, like quarterback coach, you're gonna have to get him out of Dodge. You gotta get the hell on. Wide receiver coach. Well, this is the thing, because Michael Gallup is hobbled after having knee surgery in the offseason. We knew he wasn't going to be very, very good this year. Noah Brown is a career special team player. He is not that good. And then T.Y. Hilton, he's 33 years old. Was not even in the league before we signed him, right? He was at home chilling, working out, doing that, doing this. So everybody, all those guys were not that good this year. Did I see the comment? No, what was the comment you said, Ken Folk? I missed it. I'm sorry. I try to get to all y'all comments. I'm sorry I missed it. But what was your comment? Put it back in, and I'll respond to it, Eli. I'll respond to it. I still believe in Gallup. I think he'll be explosive for us next year. Well, listen, Ty, he has no choice, because if he does not perform in the 2023 season, the Cowboys have an out in his contract in the 2024 season. So technically, Michael Gallup has no choice but to come in and show his naked ass, or he'll be in the unemployment line, just like some of these coaches. Like it may or may not be fair, but like they have an out in his contract. It's basically set up like the Amari Cooper deal. Like they have an out, they have an easy out, not that much dead money. They can be out from under that contract. Not this year 2023, but next year 2024, before the season starts, they can cut Michael Gallup. Had it not affect him that much. So really, I really think Michael Gallup going to come in here and play hard, because he has a job to play for. The only thing about Mike, if he bring an OC, I hope it's not a Mike Nolan situation. That is very true. Like Mike Nolan had no business being our defensive coordinator, right? But this is the thing. I trust an offensive-minded coach to bring in a good offensive coordinator. Like he had no business bringing in a defensive coordinator. Like that's not in his wheelhouse. He did that as a favor to a friend. Like he fooled with Mike Nolan. That's his partner. I'm pretty sure they used to go to the bar or something together. But I trust him to bring in an offensive coordinator, because there's plenty of guys from his coaching tree that went on to coach as head coaches, right? So I trust Mike McCarthy to find a good offensive coordinator. I just would have never put him in charge and putting together the defensive side of the ball. All right, so Ken Folk, hey, I've been on here almost 2 hours. I appreciate all y'all for rocking with me, man. So if you haven't already, please like and subscribe, share the content. We're trying to get up to 1,000 subscribers so I can get this mug monetized. I can invest back in it, give y'all more quality content, invest in a mic, soundboard, different things like that. So, you ain't got to send money, but, you're subscribed just like bread to me. Dwayne Brown, I appreciate you, man. I appreciate y'all for staying this long. Henny, your subs going up, my boy. Yeah, man, I'm trying, Kinfolk. I'm trying. I'm just trying to stay consistent, give y'all good Dallas Cowboy content. I try to stay facts over feelings over here. So, I'm always try. I know that people are very emotional now, about the things that have been going on after the playoff game, but we will overcome. We really overachieved this year, man. We overachieved. We good at our roster. People didn't expect us to even be competitive, and we went out there, won 12 games, finally beat Tom Brady, won a road playoff game. We did great things this year, man. We elevated CeeDee Lamb into a true number one receiver and an All-Pro, right? We seen a bunch of things happen this year that needed to happen. We just need to retool our roster, retool our offensive philosophy, and then just come back at it next year. That's the only thing we can do. You know what I mean? But I ain't losing faith just yet. Henny, what you think about Zay Flowers? Who the hell is Zay Flowers? I'm gonna Google it. Cause see, that's a beautiful thing. He's a player. Okay, Zay Flowers is an American football wide receiver that plays for the Boston College Eagles. Let's see his stats on the year. Zay Flowers was a 1,000-yard receiver this year. So he had 1,077 yards. He had a long of 69, caught 12 touchdowns. Okay. 5'10". I tell you what, since I'm only looking for a number 2 or a number 3 receiver, if he has good game speed, because he's explosive, okay, because I haven't watched anything on the board yet. So if he has good game speed, because he's 5'10", so if he got good game speed, he's a home run hitter, I definitely would draft him. Because my one knock on our offense, even when we had Amari Cooper, we did not have a bunch of speed on the perimeter. He's a speedster. Okay, we need him then. We need a speedster. Because listen, one of the things that's held us back is we have not had a bunch of explosive players on the roster, right? Even when Amari Cooper was here, like he was a route technician. He was a 4-4 guy, but he wasn't anybody that just was, going to just take the top off of a defense at any point of time. So, when you have somebody like CeeDee Lamb already, who's explosive, who is a very physical receiver, but is not really a speedster. Like you need some more. You need somebody that can take the top off of a defense. You need somebody with a safety have to rotate over the top of them. You need somebody that if in a man-to-man situation, he can just run away from the guy trying to hold him. Because like we don't always have to have guys. Yeah, Rasheed Rice is another one. Like we're gonna do a bunch of draft stuff, especially me and Landlord. Like he's an Alabama guy. I follow the Arkansas Razorbacks. So we're gonna do a draft show. We're gonna look at some prospects. We're gonna look at some prospects from the SEC. Look at some prospects from all around. I don't know when we're gonna do the show. I'm gonna get with my boy and we're gonna talk about it, set a date. But we're definitely gonna do some draft content. And we're gonna see about trying to find some guys that fit what the Dallas Cowboys want to do going forward. So yeah, we'll definitely do that. But yeah, if he's a speedster, like y'all send me names, I'll look them up. I'll look at some film. I'll look at some highlights. I'll pull up some stats. PFF even has like advanced analytics for college teams now, so I can look these guys up, see how they grade out, and we can have a show. We'll talk about it. So y'all get some names together, and just send them to me. I'll look them up. Yes, tabs. Yeah, like when we do it, like here, just shoot it to me. Shoot me some names, I'll do some research on them. We had a good season for the most part. Most people wrote us off week 1. Man, most people wrote us out before the season started. Y'all remember when people were saying we were gonna finish the season 8-9? Yeah, man, we overachieved, man. I'm not upset. I was pissed off because we had a good chance to win the game, but now that I've cooled off, man, I'm not upset no more. We just got to build for the future. We got to build for the future. Like the rest of my energy is gonna be rooting against the Eagles because I hate them motherfuckers. But hey, man, y'all people know what's up, man. I appreciate the love and support. Like, share, and subscribe. Pass word along. Tell them to come over here to HTM Sports for that good Dallas Cowboys content. And I appreciate y'all, man. Hey, I'll see y'all next time, man. I'm probably gonna go live again with West Coast a little bit later on, so stay tuned.